UFC Fight Night Moreno versus Albazi ended last night, and it was as expected. A meh card. Wasn't the worst, but certainly not good. Very decision heavy. There was no hype for this card at all. Pretty much dead in the water. There were people that didn't even make picks and predictions for this card, and a couple of guys that didn't even stream for it. And so I am sorry in advance if my recap is as dead as the card was, because I record these as soon as the fight ends, so I can save time and kind of keep my memory sharp and how much energy I had during the fight still there. But I was kind of falling asleep throughout this whole card. I didn't get much sleep the night before. Was very tired for it, and this boring card did not help. So yeah, let's get into the first fight. Second fight on the card, Chad and Heler versus Cody Gibson. I didn't get to watch the first fight because I was busy doing shit with my uncle, and I really don't care to go back and watch it. It seemed pretty boring. The strike numbers are very low, and there's a lot of control time, and when I was listening to a stream, people were saying it was pretty mid. So I'm not going to go back and watch that. But Chad and Heler and Cody Gibson, I'd went with Chad and Heler. I figured he would do well in the striking, and the little bit there was, he did look to have some promise. But Cody Gibson was just too big, too strong. Took him down every round with ease. Chad didn't have the strength or the positioning, the technique to stop the takedowns. First round was really boring and uneventful on the ground. Cody didn't do much at all, just kind of looking for position and somewhat going for submissions. And then in the second round, he started to open up with the ground and pound a little more. It still wasn't enough to be an exciting fight or impress me at all. About halfway through round 2 and all of round 3 on the ground, he was looking for an arm triangle, and he kept locking it up, but he couldn't get the squeeze right or get into position. Like his elbow wasn't far enough to the side or underneath Heler's head to actually squeeze on the arteries, and so he never was able to get close to it, even though it was locked in. And yeah, Cody was just a step ahead in the grappling. Really boring fight. He could have done more. And Chad just had a terrible performance. Third fight on the card, Sergey City versus Garrett Armfield. I don't think this was a robbery, but I do think Garrett Armfield won. Outside of the submission attempts that Sergey was latching in, like he came really close to an anaconda in round 1. Outside of that, I think Garrett won. He landed the cleaner shots. His jab was money all night, and he racked up a decent bit of control time. Sergey had pop in his punches, but he was just getting outboxed almost the entire fight. And he kept giving up takedowns to try to latch in guillotines, and he never really got close to him. He would be so focused on sinking the choke in that he would just be getting passed into half guard and into side control before he could even get his arms around Garrett's neck. He did good though, and like I said, I don't think it's a robbery. It's a close fight. If Sergey didn't constantly look for the submissions when Garrett was going for takedowns and instead opted to stuff them, I think he potentially could have found a finish on the feet. He landed a really good body kick in round 2 and was doing well with teeps and front kicks throughout the whole fight. And it seemed like Garrett was getting a little tired. I mean, obviously Sergey was too. But there was one point in round 3 where he landed a few shots to Garrett on the head, and you could tell he was kind of rocked. And he ends up shooting for a takedown, and in the classic fashion of strikers, Sergey goes for a fucking submission. One of my most hated things to watch in the sport is seeing a striker damage somebody or hurt somebody, and then either go to the ground willingly or get taken down and look for submissions. It's like you're just handing them recovery time. Absolutely infuriating to watch. But good performance from both guys. Well, I don't know. All right performance from both guys. Not really that great. Fourth fight on the card, Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Alexander pretty much dominated this fight. First round, he took him down, held him up against the cage, and just kneed him there for the entire round after he got the takedown. Nascimento couldn't do anything, couldn't get up, couldn't reverse position, and just sat there and took the knees. Second round was pretty much the same thing, except they were both very gassed. They stood for a little bit at the end, and Nascimento looked terrible on the feet. His boxing was sloppy and just loose, winging punches that were missing by a country mile. Alexander's striking looked quite a bit better than Nascimento's, even though he was arguably more gassed. And then the third round, kind of the same thing as the last half of the second round, just Romanov a step ahead in the striking. Completely had this fight in his hands. Nascimento never came close to winning this fight. Fifth fight on the card, Jack Shore versus Yousef Zalal. Jack Shore did better than I thought. I didn't pick him, I picked Yousef. But in the first round, he didn't look as small as I thought he would. He still is very soft-bodied. He does not have the muscle mass he needs to be competing at featherweight. Landing decent combos. Like, his boxing was pretty nice. Second round came, and Yousef timed what looked like he was going for a body lock or maybe a double leg. I couldn't really tell because it didn't really get to pan out, but Jack Shore dipped down and Yousef fired up a fucking step-in lead knee and just nearly KO'd Jack Shore out cold. Follows him to the ground, lands a little bit of ground and pound, and then latches in an arm triangle. Absolutely dominant second round for Yousef. Looked great. And I think he has some absolute promise at featherweight. I don't know if he'll be champ one day or anything like that, but top 15 inbound. Sixth fight on the card, Charles Jordane versus Victor Henry. I didn't get to see the first round. I was busy doing shit. And so yeah, I can only really review half of this fight. But when the second round started, they both were swinging and banging, landing heavy shots for both guys. And eventually Henry got Jordane down, and it was a well-timed takedown. He looked good. He was controlling for a few minutes. Jordane kept trying to go for a full guard guillotine, like he's playing fucking UFC 2. They scrambled out of that position. Jordane went for it again, locked it in really tight. Victor had to tap. I don't know how. I didn't even know that Jordane was moving down for this fight. He looked decent at the weight class, but I don't think he's going to be able to crack the top 10. Maybe, but not the top 5. Amian Zahabi versus Pedro Munhoz. This was an excellent performance for Amian Zahabi. Very Sean Strickland-esque. Great combos, good jab, and blocked a ton of Pedro Munhoz shots. I'm looking at the stats right now, and they'll probably change by the time I've recorded this. Pedro threw 314 strikes and only landed 82. That's a crazy percentage to block. He also had excellent takedown defense. And yeah, I don't even really know what else to say. He was just on point the whole time. His jab was money all night, busting up Pedro. And he stayed very composed and measured. He didn't gas at all. The first round, both guys were pretty patient with their shots, and slowly the volume picked up. I'd say the second round was probably the most active. Honestly, if Zahabi would have really sat down on his shots in the third round, he potentially could have got Pedro out of there. It just didn't seem like he was really putting his all into the shots. And I can understand that. Pedro is extremely hard to finish. If you're dominating him like Zahabi was, there's really no need to go for a finish, because it's just, you got it in the bag. There was no way he was losing that fight. I don't even know how they scored a round for Pedro. 2 of the judges did. But yeah, great performance for Zahabi. Mike Malott versus Trevon Giles. This fight almost put me to sleep. It was very uneventful. Both guys didn't have much volume. I mean, Trevon Giles didn't even throw north of 100 strikes, which I feel like is a fucking prerequisite for a 3-round fight. You're really not leaving it all in there if you're not throwing 100 strikes, especially if you're below heavyweight. But yeah, I can understand Mike Malott being more reserved and patient after his loss to Neil Magny where he gassed. But still, dude, Jesus Christ, this was just boring. tepid range striking, a very kick-heavy game. And I guess I can't be too hard on Mike Mallet, or Malott, however you say his fucking last name, because it takes two to tango, and Giles is the one who should really be shit on and be ashamed of that performance. It was just terrible. And he literally looked unmarked, like he had taken no damage, and he still was barely throwing anything, whiff a few punches, and then just return to range and just do nothing. I don't even have much to say about it. Mike just outpointed him, and not by much. The total strike number, as I'm recording this, is 59-34 in a 3-round welterweight fight. It's fucking terrible. Marc-Andre Barriault versus Dustin Soltzfus. Another pick I've got wrong. I've been doing terrible on this card. Immediately at the start of the fight, Dustin lands a really good leg kick, knocks Barriault down, follows him to the ground, looks for a Darce, stays heavy on top, controls for about 4 minutes. Eventually Barriault reverses and gets up, and they just stand in the pocket and trade blows. And Barriault gets caught right on the chin, and Soltzfus knocked him out. I think Pfeiffer took Barriault's chin. I don't think he can stand and bang with guys anymore. And it was a very accurate and on-the-button strike. But I feel like he could have taken that punch in the past. It's 2 bad KO losses. 2 round 1 KO losses. Not a good look. Especially against someone who many people regard as a journeyman bum. At least it was the first KO on the card. Added some level of excitement to this dead card. Ariana Lipsky versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Both of these girls were on the complete opposite ends of MMA. Ariana Lipsky looked great on the feet and terrible on the ground, and Jasmine looked terrible on the feet and great on the ground. I thought Ariana won round 1. She had really good combos and was so much faster than Jasmine on the feet. Jasmine did take her down at the end of the round, but it was a little too late to win that round. And then the second round, Jasmine managed to get her down a lot earlier. Lipsky was looking for submissions when she should have been looking for position and to get back up. And so she just fell victim to control time and ground and pound. In the third round, Jasmine got her down even sooner. Ground and pounded her, hit her to the back of the head a lot. The referee just kind of didn't give a fuck. He sort of warned her and then just kind of let it happen. And eventually she pressured her enough for her to expose her neck, and she latched up a Darce. And that was a wrap. No resistance on the ground for Jasmine. Just absolutely mogging Ariana. Good performance for her, although she needs to work on her striking. It was atrocious. She looked like she was moving through molasses. She was so slow. Kaio Machado versus Brinson Ribeiro. Not much to say about this fight. It was a very sloppy slugfest. Few of their shots landed. They were whiffing a lot of punches. The technique in their striking was just not there. It was pretty bad. The most notable thing about the fight was the fact that Kaio Machado looked like a completely different person, having lost all of that weight. And if I remember correctly, he fought not too long ago. Yeah, at the end of 2023. So yeah, he's lost a lot of weight since then. Looks in much better shape. He's got a hell of a chin on him, I'll say that too, because, I mean, when punches finally did land, he took some bombs off of Ribeiro. Yeah, other than that, not much else to say. Erin Blanchfield versus Rose Namajunas. I'm gonna be honest, I was almost falling asleep during this fight. Not because it was a bad fight by any means, but I was just tired as shit. I didn't get much sleep the night before. And so, yeah, I'm not the most reliable person to recap this fight, but I was kind of shocked that Erin won. I saw people, or pretty much everyone gave her round 4, and I guess I just zoned out during it because I didn't see anything that definitively won her the round. But I'm looking at the stats, and she almost doubled Rose on strikes. Round 1, I thought it definitely went to Rose. Her jab and kind of floating back combos were winning her that round. And the second round wasn't much different. The third round I did give to Aaron. Controlled for like half the round at least and landed decent ground and pound. Fourth round, I just really don't remember it. I mean, it could have went either way. Apparently, Blanchfield outlanded Rose significantly. In the fifth round, I gave it to her, so I don't know. I guess she did win. Like I said, I was almost falling asleep during it, so. Rose looked decent. I do think she could potentially be kind of undersized for flyweight. I mean, Blanchfield is kind of big for flyweight. When Blanchfield was able to get Rose down, she definitely was able to somewhat muscle her around and really keep her in position. And everybody knows how good of a grappler Rose is. Blanchfield needs to work on her striking. It's the main thing, main takeaway I have from this fight. Just technique in general and her defense. And honestly, she could be a force to reckon with. I'm trying to think of anyone like who really gives her trouble. I mean, obviously Shevchenko will give anyone trouble. But good win. Brandon Moreno versus Amir Albazi. This was an absolute masterclass from Brandon Moreno. He won all 5 rounds, significantly outstriking Amir Albazi. As of the time I'm recording this, the strike numbers are 124 to 56. Stumbled Amir multiple times. He landed a glancing head kick in round 2 that stumbled Amir. And in round 5, he was kind of just wobbling him all over the place. It almost felt like Brandon didn't want to just pour on the strikes in round 5 and finish him, because I think he could have. It didn't seem like Albazi had the capability to really hurt Moreno, to keep him at bay. And Moreno definitely had the cardio to keep going and just, get him out of there. He was very patient in round 1. He did land a good, I think it was a hook or an overhand, and right after he landed it, Albazi slipped, so it made it look even more effective, although I don't think he slipped because of the hook. They were slipping a lot, though, in this fight. It felt like they fucking greased the canvas right before this fight. Not a good look for Albazi after being off for quite a while and having heart and spine surgery, I'm pretty sure. I think Moreno showed he is, not top 5 material, maybe. I don't think he beats Pantoja. I feel like Kai could actually win the fight if they fought again. Royval could style on him in the striking. Moreno had excellent takedown defense, and the one time he got taken down, he popped back up in record time. Just no point in which Albazi really looked good in the fight. And there were 2 50-45 scorecards. I don't even know how Amir won a round. I think 4 was somewhat close on strikes. Like, Brandon was only up by like 5. But yeah, an absolute masterclass from Moreno. I'm very glad to have him back around. Hopefully he doesn't stay out too long. I don't know, like a March of next year. That'd be nice to see Brandon. I'm trying to think of who he should fight next. Whoever it is, it will definitely be a banger. Brandon always delivers on his fights. Never been bored or disappointed with a Brandon fight. And yeah, I guess it's down for the down in the rankings for Albazi. Like I said, I don't think he'll be champ or even in the top 5. He's just too inactive, man. And now that he's having health problems, it's just not a good look. So yeah, a good fight. First round was shitty, but everything else after it, well, I guess I can't even really say a good fight because it was extremely one-sided, but still, good performance. Great performance from Brandon. A nice end to the card. Wish he could have got a finish, though, because this card was absolutely devoid of finishes, besides, like, a few subs. Yeah, actually a few subs, but 1 KO, because Barry Alt's chin was gone. But yeah, not a bad card. I don't know. Actually, it's kind of a bad card.